So I'm just reading here The Science of Scaling by, who is this by? Okay, hang on. So in today's video, it's going to be a little different. I'm going to be reading The Science of Scaling by Dr. Benjamin Hardy and Blake Erickson because, frankly, I enjoy reading. It helps me focus, helps me get clarity on what I need to do next and the priorities I need to take action on. And more specifically, I hope this can help you because I'm just going to read this out loud to myself as I continue to read this. I'm on page 15, but I'm just going to keep reading and see whether or not, people like it and enjoy it. So here it goes. If you can't say we do this, then you're undefined, diluted, and cannot scale. The primary reason companies don't scale is the same reason people don't scale. The entrepreneur is lying to themselves. Anytime a person goes below the floor, they are unclear on who they are and what they're doing. And I'm also going to be taking notes. So they're unclear on who they are and what they're doing. They're diluting and distracting themselves and others. They aren't becoming the absolute best at what they do. They aren't making the impact they could be making. You have to focus. You have to optimize yourself. Okay. Anytime you go below the floor, you're in the noise. You're making your business complex by doing multiple things at a more mediocre level than you want to admit. You can't scale a complex system. You can't scale noise. You can't scale if you're too afraid to define yourself. You can't scale if you're too afraid to define yourself and commit. By raising the frame so high and actually establishing a scale goal, Mark filtered his business and clients far more rigorously. That rigor and honesty transferred directly to how he spoke to his clients. Look, this is who we are and what we can do for you. Play big or go somewhere else. Because of extreme clarity, Mark was no longer noise to his clients. With their multiple conflicting services, the conviction they now spoke in defining themselves and their single service was a complete signal to the right people. Focus on one point I've incredible at. No dilution, no competition for two reasons. One, they really were the best at this. And two, they spoke with extreme clarity and conviction about what they did, as well as what the client would need to do to succeed. No one else was that clear. Almost everyone else in the market is diluted and unfocused, following the crowd and offering far too many mediocre products and services. This is almost so similar to when I was starting. I was trying to do everything for everyone, like a yes man, trying to do everything. And now reading this section, I kind of see that where I've now been able to shift into providing one specific service to startup brands in a way that just clarifies how we take this to market. That's what I'm doing. My service is I help startup brands take their products to market. That's what I do. I just do nothing else except that. And it's funny how the success scales from there because in the beginning when I started doing this, I had no idea what I was doing. That's the whole point. You have to learn it. And so I took action. I just kind of went and did it. And I told them, I've never done this before, but I want to prove to you I can. And so I went in there, I did it, I pitched, and I actually got the deal. And so now we're working with them. And when I say them, I mean the brand, the very first brand I worked with. And now I'm working with 5, and it's been exceptional. No, actually 4. The 5th one is still in the works. We're still deciding if I want to continue to move forward with them. But you have to be very clear with who you're going to work with. And this kind of just gives that section is no dilution, no competition, because you know how good you are. And for me, I work with startup brands because I haven't ran a big company yet. And so as I continue to scale those startup brands and continue to level up and pass 6 figures, 7 figures, and 8 figures, even 9 figures and $1 billion, that's when you start learning the higher end level, of hiring and going into the executive board of directors, things like this, moving into private equity, how to sell a company, how to exit, and things like this that you only learn through experience. So I love this part. It's no one else was that clear. Almost everyone else in the market is diluted and unfocused, following the crowd and offering far too many mediocre products and services In a follow-up interview with that client a few days later, the client accepted the new and better plan and wired the $300,000 initial investment to really blow up their product and brand. I need to learn that. So this company charged $300,000 to this brand they were helping out scale. That's insane. Holy shit. Sorry if I swear, but that's incredible. That is amazing. Okay, so wow. Okay. For me, I'm just thinking of like, with my situation, working with startup brands, yes, it might be tough to have them pay or have them invest money up front, but like I also have to understand like my identity is valuable. Like what I do for my clients is very valuable. And so by being able to down the line come to clients and actually say, this is what we're going to do together, it's going to be an upfront cost, initial investment of XYZ, and to really take your brand to the next level and blow it up, that's what we're going to do. So I think that might be a strategy because it allows us to cover our overhead, our expenses as we continue to scale and have those performance fees and, pretty much get paid from that. So that's actually really nice. There was another part of Mark's conversation with this client, which reflected Mark's higher floor, honesty, and accountability. He told his client, I want you to understand, part of this conversation we're having today is my fault. We did the wrong thing for you. We never should have allowed you to play in this little pool, building your business solely around Amazon. We gave you bad advice, and that's on me. I did it because you came in the door and said, we can't afford this. Instead of telling you what you needed, we told you what you wanted to hear. Yeah. We shouldn't have told you what you wanted to hear. We should have told you what you needed to hear. Today, I'm going to tell you what you need to hear, which is that if you don't take this product to mass market and mass retail, then you're going to fail within 18 months or less. The client got it and is now making much bigger moves to success. Several of their other clients made the same decision. In less than 2 weeks of Mark learning the scaling framework, Jekyll & Hyde was a radically simpler and clearer system. They eliminated all lesser product offerings that muddled their brand and weakened their power. They've eliminated all below the floor clients that wouldn't or couldn't play at the level Jekyll offered. And something else happened that shocked the team even further. It dawned hard on Mark that when they lowered their floor as a business, offering a multitude of lesser services, they stopped filtering for and focusing on the types of clients they really wanted. With Mark's newfound conviction and intensity, especially as it related to his scale goal of hitting $100 million in revenue within 3 years, he began having this same very powerful conversation with potential clients and how he could help them. One person was a friend who was a big doctor who offered health supplements and coaching. Mark told this doctor that his supplements, which already did $10 million in revenue, could be doing $500 million in revenue if he went to mass market and retail. The doctor wanted to scale and agreed to do it. They'd have to follow Mark's plan. Within a few days, they got a deal that produced nearly $10 million in revenue for Jekyll & Hyde. I'm sorry, hang on a second. That's insane. So one person was a friend who was a big doctor who offered health supplements and coaching. Mark told this doctor that his supplements, which already did $10 million in revenue, could be doing $500 million in revenue if he went to mass market and retail. The doctor wanted to scale and agreed to do it. They'd have to follow Mark's plan. Within a few days, they got a deal that produced nearly $10 million in revenue for Jekyll & Hyde. They were no longer optimizing what shouldn't exist. They'd simplified their model and focus so they could scale. And they actually had a scale goal, which forced a much higher rigor of both strategy and psychology in all they did. Again, all of this occurred within 2 weeks of Mark learning and embracing the scaling framework. There's a final kicker for Mark that happened during those 2 weeks, which shocked even him, but told me he really got the message. His commitment to his impossible goal led him to realizing most of his other companies were creating complexity and dilution of focus. He began the process of selling most. I want to read that again. There's a final kicker for Mark that happened during those 2 weeks, which shocked even him, but told me he really got the message. His commitment to his impossible goal led him to realizing that most of his other companies were creating complexity and delusion of focus. He began the process of selling most. Mark is just one of the many case studies we will share with you in this book. Some of the stories are even more profound, like Alicia Colt, who'd spent 5 years stagnating with her innovative software company, only to scale over 1,000x in a single year applying the scaling framework. Or like Stephanie, the CEO of a long-time family business that finally got the clarity and confidence to sell off their legacy products and chose a more scalable path, making possible a jump from a low eight-figure revenue to hundreds of millions within a few short years. My co-author Blake Erickson and I developed the scaling framework through training thousands of people, just like Mark, and just like you, to go from small and stock businesses to scaling them to a size they could only dream of, and rapidly. In fact, as you'll learn later in this book, if you're not scaling aggressively, you are likely dying slowly. There's no in between. That is so true. Because I've learned this, I think, in my third year of business, is like, if you're not scaling aggressively, you're likely dying slowly. It's like so true. Oh my gosh. And sometimes I gotta remember myself to do that. So there's no in between. Small and incremental goals, as well as overly long-term goals, are bad filters that enable bad decisions that compound over time, making it increasingly unlikely to scale. The longer you wait to scale, the less likely it will happen. When someone learns the scaling framework, whether you're a company doing 1 million or 1 billion in revenue, fear often kicks in. Unlike Mark, there is typically a lag of application. It takes a paradigm upgrade to realize and appreciate that what you're currently doing isn't scalable. If you keep doing what you're doing, stagnation is the best scenario. Yet, once a person begins applying the framework, they immediately start scaling. And so will you. Another friend, I damn hope so. I'm really excited. I'm like, to give you context for why I'm doing this, because I really hope that someone who was watching this can kind of take inspiration and just kind of from someone that maybe can't afford the book. Even like in the beginning as an entrepreneur, I always buy used books because I just wanted to learn as much as I could. And now, I'm been blessed to be able to buy 10, 20 books at a time whenever I want. But it's like, how can I provide this type of knowledge in a way that's talking and also giving my own feedback from reading it and kind of talking through it with the camera? And so this is what's allowing me to do that, and also makes me a lot better when I read, more clarity, more diction, as well as I learn it and pretty much implement it a lot better when I'm actually reading it out loud and kind of talking through. So let's keep going. Another friend who read an advanced copy of this book, a billionaire and legend in private equity, who's been part of hundreds of scaling processes, told us that this book changed his mind on something. Before reading this book, he didn't think scaling was a possibility for most people and most businesses, particularly large enterprises. Yet, in his own words, the paradigm shift this book offers, it fully embraced, can enable any size company to scale, big or small. The insight that with the right paradigm or frame, anyone can be a visionary leader and scaler surprised him and gave him hope. He also stated that this book defines how the best CEOs operate and shows us how to be at the extreme tail of the bell curve. While all forces push a leader and a company to the mean and to security, if a company applies the framing in this book, they'll be at the extreme tail in outcomes and impact. He noted that while reading the book, he reached out multiple times to his family office, which manages multiple billions, and the byproduct was them re-simplifying their focus by making key shifts out of investments and sectors that don't align. Most who speak of scaling do so tactfully. Conversely, this book will reframe your psychology and strategy. Before you finish reading this book, you'll experience a paradigm shift so profound that it will change how you see everything. You'll realize how you've been playing small and operating linearly out of fear. You've been below the floor. You've been below your floor. You'll be emboldened to set an impossible goal, and you'll quickly see the power of using that goal to filter everything inside and outside your business. You'll increase your honesty and rigor, removing many things you've just been no longer can. You've been justifying but no longer can. What once slowed you down will stop existing. Your path will become clear and more distinct. Your progress in learning will 10x or more. You'll identify and laser in on crucial insights and innovations no one else is looking for. You'll find and work with only the best of the best, those who produce 100x to 10,000x the results of the average employee or partner. Before you finish reading this book, you'll see everything differently. You'll even see how Kennedy could have likely gotten a man on the moon in 3 years and not 7. Where did the scaling framework come from? Unfortunately, good strategy is the exception, not the rule. This is a quote by Dr. Richard Rumlett in Good Strategy, Bad Strategy. In 2015, during the first year of my PhD in organizational psychology, I started blogging about how to apply psychology in business. Within a few months, my blogs were being read by millions of people monthly. By the time I graduated with a PhD in 2019, I was one of the world's top bloggers and a professional author with a 7-figure training company. Rather than sticking to the academic path, I went straight into the cutthroat world of business coaching and consulting. In addition to training thousands of leaders in my own program, I also worked directly with some of the top business coaches and leaders in the world. In that process, I co-authored a trilogy of entrepreneurial strategy books with Dan Sullivan, a man who has coached over 20,000 entrepreneurs in the past 50 years. That trilogy has sold over 1 million copies. Over 1 million copies. I also wrote a book on the emerging science of future self, which became one of the fastest selling books in various parts of Asia, including South Korea and Japan. In mid-2013, after 2023, after I finished my final book with Dan Sullivan, 10x is easier than 2x, I felt strongly that I needed to return to the drawing board. Though I'd learned a lot the previous decade in my PhD research, training companies myself, and working with people like Dan, it was clear to me there was a still huge and unresolved problem. Most people, even those getting guidance and training, don't know how to scale their business. Scaling is the exception, not the rule. And even though there are hundreds of gurus and academic teaching this, none of them had clients who consistently were able to achieve results. This wasn't acceptable to me. I spent the next 2 years reading hundreds of books and thousands of research studies on the subjects of business strategy and psychology. In addition to my studies, I continued training thousands more leaders and businesses on my developing insights, seeing consistent patterns and problems emerge as people tried to scale. Given the obvious rarity of scaling and profound results, it was clear that traditional and popular thinking on both the subjects of strategy and psychology were muddled, confusing, and even derailing. If someone wanted to learn how to effectively scale a business, it would likely take them years or decades to filter through the endless popular and scientific material on these subjects. That is so true. It's absolute nightmare trying to figure out what's real and what's not. So I'm glad I found this type of book. Okay, without question, there is a powerful and important research insight in both of these fields. Though often buried in noise or improperly framed, it wasn't my initial intent, but to provide something transformative and effective. It became clear that I need to create an entirely new and simplified model. I partnered with Blake Erickson, a world-class leader and trainer, to refine this model. It's been noted that by the Harvard psychologist Dr. Steven Pinker that psychology as a discipline is a misorganized and mistaught. The billionaire investor Charlie Munger agreed with Pinker's sentiments, stating psychology is significantly daft and that a lot has been discovered, but no one mind has put it all together in proper form. And it should be done because it wouldn't be that hard to do, and it's enormously important. Everything here could also be said about strategy. Buckminster Fuller said, "You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete." The scaling framework is a new but tested and effective model at the intersection of psychology and strategy. Though clean and simple, the strategic insight and application of the scaling framework is extremely rigorous and will require you to remodel your thinking and assumptions as well as your business and team. Where previous models are overly complex and diluted, the scaling framework is specific and intentional to help you grow your business faster and bigger than you think possible. This book and the framework taught herein marks the beginning of an important movement, a movement where scaling becomes simplified and normalized. By simple, we don't mean easy. There are painful, often heart-wrenching decisions you'll need to make in order to scale, which you've been avoiding. But until you simplify your decisions and focus, you won't scale. This book will show you how. That's true. By normalized, what we mean is that this book and framework will make it normal for millions of businesses to scale. At this point, the topic of scaling has been made overly complex by academics and bastardized by copywriters and online marketers. The scaling framework in this book bring much needed science, sophistication, and rigor to this crucially important topic. Wow. I'm guessing this is the final thing. Okay, finally. Whew. The promise of the book is clear and simple. Apply the scaling framework, and you'll scale your company bigger and faster than you think possible. Now is the time. Who this book is for? The hefty price for accepting information uncritically is that we go through life unaware that what we've accepted as impossible may in fact be quite possible. This is a quote by Dr. Ellen Langer, Harvard psychologist in mindfulness. I wrote this book for leaders who are ready to scale their companies by 10x or more within the next 3 years. Okay. Well, you hit the nail on the head with me. So these are the exact type of leaders we work with in our training company, scaling.com. The truth is, most companies aren't ready to scale. Despite an incredibly high ceiling and potential, most keep their floor low and achieve a fraction of what they could have. Their growth is stagnant. This book will help you grow exponentially. And in fact, from our view, if you're not scaling exponentially, that tells us you're below your floor. Though requiring courage and conviction, you can do this. You can scale 10x or more within 3 years. Are you ready? There are 2 groups of businesses that should not read this book. The first group are those who don't want to aggressively scale. There's nothing wrong with this. Many simply want a lifestyle or passive income business. These are people who would never establish a true scale goal, such as reaching 9 to 10 figure revenue in their business at all, let alone in the next few years. The second group are those lying to themselves, telling themselves they're scaling but actually stagnant. A little bit. I'm figuring it out. The most common way this is exemplified is when a leader builds their company around themselves. They are the king or queen of the castle and reflect what Jim Collins describes as the leader with 1,000 helpers. Though brilliant and talented themselves, those in this second camp can't scale beyond themselves unless they make the changes needed. Okay, good to know. I'm actually more like this second group then. I'm lying to myself. They are the king. And this is the most common one? Yeah. They build their business around themselves. As a leader with 1,000. Though brilliant and talented in themselves, those in this camp can't scale beyond themselves unless they make the changes needed. If you're one of those 2 groups of people, 1, you don't want to scale, or 2, you're building your business around yourself, then either this book will change your paradigm and elevate your vision, or it's not for you. Well, it's definitely for me. It's going to change my paradigm. To scale in the most effective and efficient way, you'll need you'll need a goal so impossible that it forces you. All right, scale. I'm going to write this down. Scale. To scale in the most effective and efficient way, you'll need a goal so impossible that it forces you out of your existing role into something simpler and more focused. You'll need a far more innovative path and simplified business. You'll need 10x people. Okay. You'll need 10x better people working with you than you have now. All of this you can do. Thanks, brother. In summary, if you're ready to scale and willing to remodel your assumptions in business, do this so. This book will show you how. It will simplify the scaling process for you, helping you achieve goals that currently seem impossible. If you're not ready or interested, that's okay. The science of scaling is not for you. Frame and floor. All right, so I'm gonna pause here because, I'm gonna go hit the gym. That's why actually. So I'm gonna read this later, but I am excited to get into this. I hope you guys have a blessed rest of your guys' night. And if you like this type of video and other styles like this, I'm just sharing my day in the lives and what I'm doing to work with the brands I work with. And it's been a long journey for sure. I've been doing this now for 6 years in the entrepreneur space, and I've learned a lot of things over my life, and now I'm blessed to say I'm getting to a point where I'm excited to keep growing the next couple of years. It's gonna be crazy. So if you want to be a part of the journey and see just day in the lives as well as just what I'm doing to scale, no fluff, no garbage, no guru crap, no courses, no shit like that. And I swear, because it's true. Actually, the S word isn't even a bad word. You can look it up. It just means ship high in transit. I know. A little bit of fun fact for you. But anyway, I hope you guys have a blessed rest of your night. Take care and much love.